Welcome to Masters in Parenting, a podcast from Chicago Parent Magazine. I'm your host, Hillary Bird.
Today, we're talking about babies with Andrea Quartz-Passon. She's a mom of 2 girls in Niles.
Hi. Yes, I am. That's me.
And Stephanie Przinski, a mom of a 4-month-old in Tinley Park.
Hi there.
So the great thing Stephanie's being a brand new mom, has a lot of, right on her mind, baby things that we can talk about. Then we'll start with you. What was some of the weirdest advice you were given when you were pregnant, when you found out you were pregnant, when everybody was like, oh, you're pregnant? And here are the things you need to know.
Oh boy. There wasn't a lot of advice about like pregnancy in terms of like, this is what you could do to induce it better or something like that. But I do remember there was a lot of advice about when he or she is born, if you don't like their nose, like shape it every day, like use your 2 fingers and shape it and it'll change for you. Like things like don't let the girl, if you have a girl, wear a headband because it'll prevent her hair from growing. She'll be a fine-haired person. So I heard a lot of like what to expect after they're out and kind of like plastic surgery advice, it sounded like. So I heard a lot of that.
That's interesting. What about you, Andrea? What were you told when you were pregnant, especially with twice?
I can't think of any people just had to comment on how I look all the time. Even when I knew that I was having a girl, people would be like, are you sure you look like you're carrying a boy? No, that doesn't work that way. And people would say, so like I had really bad heartburn. So people would say, oh, that's because your baby has hair. And when babies have hair, that tickles your stomach and gives you heartburn. Again, not how science works, but they were both bald.
So you didn't have...
No, not a thing.
That came out. That's funny. Now, was it important to you to find out that you were having a girl, or find out the first time but not the second time?
So the first time I was like, I'm not going to find out. It's going to be cool, mostly because I didn't want people to be like, oh, you're having a girl? Pink. Everything pink. And so I was all gung-ho, I'm not going to find out. And then at the ultrasound, I guess it's different now. For my second, it was a blood test. And they just left me a voicemail. So like the magical moment of like, oh, you're having so I had that with my first, but we're there and I'm getting that, ultrasound. And my husband was like, it's up to you. And the technician says to me, oh, so do you want to know? I'm like, wait, you could tell me right now? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, no, I need to know. Tell me, am I having a boy or a girl? And then, she said girl. And then, strangely, I cried. I never cried. My husband did not know what was happening. But yeah, then I was super psyched. And then for my second, I just told them that I wanted to know. And yeah, I got a voicemail, and then my husband was like, you have to wait until I'm there so we could both listen to the voicemail. And I'm like, I appreciate it. And I knew earlier, but I'm like, that magical, like, you're looking at the ultrasound, and then they show you something that just looks like a blob or no blob. And they're like, look, it's a girl. And you're like, cool, I don't know what I'm looking at. But yeah, it was just somebody on the phone going, you're having a girl. Oh, yay.
That's awesome. Stephanie, was it important for you to know and want to know?
I don't think I wanted to know, but I think we were just kind of worried about like screwing up the nursery and just thinking about costs. Do we want to regret and then end up repainting or whatever it was? But I do remember like it was super easy, the whole like the technician asking, do you want to know or not? And they respected it. They wrote it on a piece of paper, put it in an envelope, because we decided we wanted to have some fun with it. We did that cake reveal. That was the part that was awkward, because you would think that bakeries would already know about this kind of thing of like, someone's going to give you an envelope.
Yeah.
And so it was like the lady that I got was, she's not from here originally. She moved to America. And so she was really like, what? And I was there for an hour. And
oh my God.
So, and then we had to come up with, because, she almost revealed it. It was very frightening.
She's like, so you want a pink cake? No!
So we had to work something out. So she wrote down, okay, so if it's a boy, we do this kind of frosting, this kind of filling, this kind of cake color, and then for girl, different. And so I was like, okay, so we got it straight? Are we good? And it was just, we were there for so long, and the longest part was just what is this? Why are you giving me an envelope? And she didn't understand. That was the funniest part about it. So I could have maybe, but I was patient. I was proud of myself.
That was amazing. Like, if you had found out the sex from the bakery lady, that would have been amazing.
Yes, she asked me if I wanted it back. And I got so nervous. I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just ask for it back in case she screws up what's on the inside. Because she really she didn't know English very well.
What if it was blue?
Exactly. No, that's exactly. So I thought, you know what? Maybe I should just do it, but be really careful that she like puts the paper back in and that I don't see a thing. So it was very like, it was like Mission Impossible, just a little bit.
Wow, that's crazy. See, we were a little bit. I really didn't want to know with either one. I said, and I know that maybe like totally old school. And so with the first, we just didn't find out. We just sort of moved along, and everybody then kept asking me.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Do you know? Do you want to know? Especially when you
What's wrong with you? Why don't you want to know?
Right, and when you have a lot of ultrasounds everywhere, it's like, okay, do you know? Do you want to know? Please ignore whether or not I assign a gender. And I'm like, you think to yourself, you've already assigned a gender, and you know. So am I supposed to listen or not listen? And my husband badly wanted to know.
Oh.
So he was very kind with the first one, and then with the second one, I, like you, had the blood test, and the blood test usually, I have found, comes when you're over 35.
Yeah, I don't know why they gave that to me, because that's what I've heard, and I don't know, whatever.
And it's part of the genetic testing.
Yeah.
So both of my kids were, I had over 35, and so I had the blood test with both of them. And on the second one, you know, I specifically told them I don't want to know. And I went home, and my husband said, wait a second, you could have found out today? And I said, I don't want to know. He said, no. We played that game with the first one. I've already done it.
It's my turn.
Right. So when we got to the 20-week ultrasound with the second one, I said, if you want to find out, you find out. But you're going to have to hold on to that for the next 20 weeks.
And not tell you.
He did not tell me.
Ooh, or make any pronoun references.
Did not know, and he was really good about fighting me on both names. So,
Oh boy, we should talk about that.
So, yeah.
That's funny. You're like, I want Henry. He's like, yeah, cool, whatever.
Right. So he knew, and he held on to it for a good solid 20 weeks. And so that was the thing that he knew and I didn't know, which apparently was just, I mean, people around offices everywhere were telling everybody how I didn't know if we were having a boy or a girl, but my goodness, my husband did. And so he was less surprised. And I did ask him afterwards, I said, is that what they told you? Well, are you surprised by
funny.
or is that what they told you? And he goes, no. That's
You're
what I've been
strong.
told 4 months ago.
I would have been like, tell me right now. Like, I couldn't have.
Yeah. Well, that was it. It was so important to him to know, and on the other side, it was so important for me not to know that he was really very wildly strong about about not saying anything. But you're right. Let's talk about naming, because now when you started the naming process, did you go in with your husband and say, all right, since I was 5, I wanted this name for my child, or did he say the same thing of?
No, he did not. It was weird. So my oldest daughter's name is Lila, and I don't even know how we came to that conclusion. We just sort of, I said Lila one day. I don't even think I was pregnant yet. And he was like, I like that. And so it was just understood that her name would be Lila, but I realized I spelled it weird and I didn't know. So like Lila, and we didn't pick it this way for this reason, but Lila is the Hebrew word for night. And so then I spelled it. So in going to services and synagogue for years, and they do the transliteration of the word, it's Lilah. Because in Hebrew, it ends with the Hebrew kind of equivalent of an H. So I thought that's how you spelled it. No. Now people are like, Lyla. I'm like, come on, guys. Apparently I should have spelled it Lyla. I don't know. I didn't even realize it until she was like a couple months old, and I was like, well, whatever. And then for And I knew I wanted to name her after, because in Jews, you name them after somebody who's died. So she was named after my great-grandmother. And then her name, so the Hebrew word for night, so her name means night. And so when you're Jewish, you have a baby naming. Yeah. So Lila is a Hebrew word. We wouldn't give her a different one. That would be weird. But you'd pick a middle name. So her name is Lila Meira, which means bringer of light. So night, bringer of light. But then my husband's cousin goes, so you named her Nightlight? I was like, I love it more. I love that. And then Audrey, that was a hard one. We needed to name her after my husband's Bobby, his grandmother, Anna. And then so I like going back and forth. And so yeah, Audrey. So they're Lila Mae and Audrey Leah. And I wanted to actually, because she was born on May 8th, but if she was born on May 4th, I wanted her middle name to actually be pronounced Leia.
Oh my, that's awesome.
But my husband was like, no. Veto.
You get the veto power.
I love their names, and both times when we said the name, I said it, and I'm like, your input is not wanted. These are their names. I don't care what you have to say about them. And
when people ask you,
everyone else, you have an opinion? I don't care.
That took me some time, because for the longest time we were going to name her after my mother-in-law's mom, and it is a beautiful name, Veronica, but I think I was a little over analytical about thinking about that, because I thought, oh no, in roll call, V is very at the end of the alphabet. But I wanted to give my daughter a sense of her own identity. How there's Cher and Madonna. I was
Veronica.
Let me see if I can try to come up with something original. But I do remember I did, and I still have it. I have a baby name book from Butera, which used to be in Niles. Because I remember we moved to Niles when I was 8. And I had a baby name book, and there were names I had in my head, but I gave that up. So when we got pregnant and everything, we kind of decided, let's not think about it for a while, let's let it naturally come. And we were watching a Star Trek movie, Star Trek 1, and Ilea is the girl who, she's bald in the movie, so I was like, oh, I hope that doesn't happen to our daughter, but the name was really pretty, and I watched for the credits to see how they spelled it. And unfortunately, the way they spelled it is like the name of a body part. And if you do Ilia, it's a body part. Ilea, I believe.
What body part?
One is like a hip part of the hip, and the other is a part of your small intestine. So it's like,
what?
So there were these two ways we could have gone. I started doing voracious research. Like, Ilea is the other way that Romulus and Remus's mom was referred to in Greek mythology. So I thought about, okay, I don't want her to get made fun of for having body part sounding names or whatever, because if she marries a doctor, he'll maybe feel awkward about it. I don't know.
Wow.
She might get teased. I was trying to avoid teasing.
Yeah.
I was thinking about mythology. Does she want to be associated with that?
Romulus and Remus. She could go to Rome.
Exactly. But then the other thing was, okay, how do we spell this thing? Let me figure this thing out. So I got I think I downloaded 5 different mom apps that are out there, and you probably know all of them, and I've forgotten all their names at this point. But Baby Center was one of them. I love that. And I did polls on all the apps.
Oh my gosh.
And then I also used howtopronounce.com, and I was just like, I'm going to figure this out. And then the last step was, okay, I've taken all this feedback and all this. I looked up the Social Security websites, top names, and I realized that the way to spell the Leah part, the popular way is Leah. And then I had this idea, all right, should we do EI or AI for that I thing? Because there's there's so many words that I learned, but I forgot all of them. It's not doppelganger, but to get someone to pronounce an I like Ilea, if you just have I-L, people might say ill or, something like that.
Oh.
So I was like, EI or AI, how do we get someone to pronounce it Ilea? And I was like, there's AI or EI. And I was like, let's do EI because everyone knows the name Eileen. And the irony is that Leah, I think you mentioned the middle name of Audrey.
Yeah.
Leah and Eileen, I think they have some kind of Irish origin or whatever, and they mean the light thing that you mentioned. So it's interesting that you have a daughter that's night, and I have a daughter that's light, and so I don't know. It's
Ilea.
Ilea, yeah.
And so you spell it. How did you decide to?
Eileah.
Wow.
But it's I think I labored over it more than the actual labor. So so I think the next child, if we are blessed with one, I think I'm going to be a little bit more relaxed, because I think I worried way too much about what are people going to think? Are people going to tease her? Is she going to spend the rest of her life having to do what I'm doing, explain this convoluted process of naming and why it's spelled that way? And I think at a certain point you do have to just relax and be like, what do I like? And I think that was the biggest thing about being a mom that was really beautiful. When she was born, I think something clicked, and I just was like, you know what? This is it. She's going to be happy. If I'm happy, she's happy. Don't worry about stuff so much. So I do feel proud that, we came up with something. But I think from now on, my whole thing is, let's keep this relaxed way of doing things, because stressing about things, you waste so much time stressing that you don't enjoy the moment.
That's so funny that's super cool. I'm a nerd. I think that's super cool where she could be like, Ilea, like the Star Trek character.
You want me to shave your head, be bald?
Yeah.
I put a hex on you for calling me names.
I love that. My middle sister, her name is Jacqueline, spelled like Jacqueline Smith from Charlie's Angels. Which she wasn't named after Charlie's Angels,
cool.
but like that was the spelling. And so one day, like I didn't realize that, and I asked my mom, I'm like, wait, is that why you spelled it? And she's like, yes. I'm like, that's amazing. I think it's way cooler. My sister's like, I don't care. Who knows who Jacqueline Smith is? I'm like, Charlie's Angels.
Yes.
I love that stuff.
That's a beautiful way to spell it. Because I think like there's the Queline, like there's the long way, but Jacqueline, that's
right.
such a nice,
Jacqueline.
easy, breezy.
We call her Jackie. I mean,
It's still pretty.
I wanted to name, so Audrey was named after my husband's grandmother.
Not Hepburn, but
Yeah, but Audrey.
Cool.
I love, so Audrey's best friend in daycare, his name is Hudson. I'm like, Audrey and Hudson, that's so glamorous. But no, so Audrey, we knew we needed an A name, and his grandmother's name was Anna. And I was like, the only way I'll use Anna is if her middle name can be Molly, because then it's Anomaly. But not like so much where I think nobody would really notice.
Yeah.
And I said to my husband's like, and I was pregnant, so he's like, you are insane. But
she had a great Twitter handle when she was.
Oh my God. So, but I was like, and here's the thing, if she, and this is my nuts pregnant brain, I'm like, we won't tell her. The day she figures it out, we buy her a car. He's like, you're done.
She's 10.
Yeah.
Only 10-year-old.
Like confetti falls. Like, oh my, she's a genius. We're done. So no, Audrey, and I like that because like everyone can pronounce that. Mm-hmm. There's no other. Sometimes, although I think the name Aubrey is really popular right now.
Like Aubrey Plaza. That's right.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is bad. Apologize to anybody whose kid is named this. I hate that name. Oh, no. I mean, and so people are like Aubrey. I'm like, no, it's Audrey. But I have no problem correcting people. I'll correct you all day.
Andrew, you mentioned that the middle name, you've got the religious aspect to making sure that when you picked a middle name, did that make it easier or harder for you?
Well, so their actual names didn't have to be religious at all. Leah, I don't know, I just like how that sounds, even though that is a biblical name.
It is, yeah.
My husband didn't want like actual biblical names because then it's like basically screams, oh my God, Jews! But
People do that.
Not quite like that, but people, although they have my blonde hair, so nobody really assumes that. But it's the Hebrew. So Audrey is, so Leah is a Hebrew name. So her name is actually Adira Leah.
Oh my goodness, that's beautiful.
I know, right? Can we just call them that? So Lila Maira and I didn't really mean to make them rhyme, but it's Adira Leah, Audrey Maira. Well, I guess it doesn't rhyme, but
this is like a song that you're writing with their names.
Yeah, it's funny because my name is Yehudi Aliyah. Yehudi means Jew, I'm like,
wow, I didn't know
that's uncreative. And then Andrea is actually the Latin word for woman. I'm like, so I'm like
There you
a
go.
just woman Jew? That's so boring.
Oh my gosh.
So,
what have you done?
Audrey, so Leah is actually, this meaning like meant a lot to me. Leah means, like weary. Like,
Oh, that's true. There is an alternate, light or weary. Yeah, I
And
thought about that.
I did not. I was like, weary? So Adira means strength. So we have night, bringer of light, strength, and weakness. So I don't know. I
One
just thought
day,
that was cool.
I imagine we're just gonna go to like, let's just number them, like 589.32, because the names, isn't that awful when people do that, where they're like, oh, like you're Jewish or you're Catholic or you're this or that,
yeah.
just because it's like maybe historically that way or people have seen it,
Mhm.
whatever. I think that's just so, that takes the joy out of it, because I mean I love my father dearly, but he said, you do know that a middle name usually, like, around the world they see that as Catholic, and I'm like,
Oh, really?
and I was
Really?
like, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
And because I had read like how people were like, the middle name thing was such a popular thing to do. Like people, like the more middle names you have, it's like, it's even cooler. I don't know, this fad might go away, but I read that middle names was like this new popular thing to do, and my husband and I like the idea of doing that. I never had a middle name and all that.
Oh, you don't?
No,
Huh.
because I'm Christian. I'm Christian Orthodox, but I don't practice it. I have respect for it and I love it and it's a part of my heart. But we didn't let a religion enter into it, and that's okay too. But even if religion is entering your choice for naming your child, I hate it when people make those kind of comments like, oh, if you do that, people are going to assume this, or they're going to treat you different because of that, or oh, that name is so, like you said, Jewish. It's like, okay, to you maybe, do you think it's a Jewish name? Do you have a problem with Jews? Do you have a problem with Catholics? Do you have a problem with whatever it is? I hate when people do that, because it's like you're trying to take the joy from the parents. The parents are trying to create a beautiful thing. That is. But then that's another thing you learn in the process of being a mom. You learn, okay, I need to stop letting this affect me.
Yeah.
And also you learn how to let it roll off your back and not feel
That's
defensive.
your issue,
Yeah,
not my issue. I'm trying to raise my kids. That's their names.
Yeah. So, but those are beautiful names. I mean, that's like lyrics. That's like your two daughters together make like a lyric.
Yeah. Well, Hebrew is. I mean, you hear people actually speak Hebrew, and you're like,
Yes.
hi. Speak more.
Lullaby. It's like a lullaby. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
We had that. Oddly enough, our oldest daughter's middle name is Veronica.
Yeah.
Because we had that with ours, that my husband's Catholic, so our middle name has to be a saint.
Oh.
So we had our oldest daughter is Eleanor. We had her middle name before we had her first name.
What
That was
saint?
easy. Veronica.
I didn't know there was a
Yes.
saint.
Oh,
There's so many
she's
saints.
apparently quite a big saint.
Really? She's a big deal, man.
She's like on saint scale, and please don't send me emails on saint scale. Pretty high up there with Mary, because when during the crucifixion, Jesus wiped his face with with Veronica's shroud, and
is that like the shroud thing that everybody?
and saw his face. So oddly enough, Veronica is the patron saint of photographers.
That makes sense, because
That's neat.
the mirror
picture.
thing. The mirror thing.
Yes, and so we have a bunch of friends who are photographers who were like, "That's fabulous! You're picking a photographer name." We're like,
Cool.
"Yes, we are."
I love all those saints stories. They're all so neat.
Right. We had a wide variety. The great thing about having a million saints out there is you have a pretty decent variety
Yes.
to pick from. In some cultures, I know you want to keep your kid's name, the saint name, very close to when they were born. So
Yes,
there's
like
saint
saint
days.
days.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like they're a saint of the. There's not like a saint of the month, like
No,
saint
they're
of the
every
month
day.
club. They're every day.
Yeah, they're every day.
Literally every day is a different saint day.
In my-
That's nuts.
For Christian Orthodox, we have something called Slavas. They're a saint day. Each family has a patron saint that kind of watches over your family.
Aww.
And my dad's was
lovely.
Saint Nick. Holler, I have Santa Claus. And so I know December 21st, I believe, is usually our saint day, and usually you have like this big meal, everyone comes over. So for our culture, the saint's a big deal. It's like it's an excuse to have another party during the year.
always have that.
That's right. And one of my friends has that too. That they celebrate their kid's birthday and his thank day.
Yes.
You get 2 birthdays.
I want 2 parties.
Oh,
Fantastic. Well, and that's what we had with the second. We had her first name picked out, I think, before we even told everybody we were pregnant. With it, we knew with the second. The second is Amelia, and so we knew. We were like, we agreed on that. That was pretty good. Yeah. But the day before she was born was when we finally picked a middle name.
Oh, what's her name? What's her middle name?
So her middle name is Lucy. And
is that a saint?
It is. Lucia is a saint.
Oh, gosh.
So we ultimately, Veronica came after my husband's father's aunt, and we said, okay, when we picked then the second one, and we were just coming up with something, and I said, the first one has some meaning. Let's find meaning with the second one, because I don't want to have to tell the story of it sounded good.
Yeah, the first one you're like this and this. The second child you're like, whatever. We opened the book.
Right. That was it. We were just looking up names that sounded great. So we went with my mother's favorite aunt with Lucy.
Aww.
And I said, okay, if we can find that she's a saint somewhere, we're golden.
That's so cool.
And then had to do a lot of research into, okay, the aunt on my side, was she originally Lucy, or was that a shortened something? Because we want to make sure we get it right.
Wow.
So yeah, it's at that point when you have 2, that's the funny thing is you're like, we put so much into the first one.
Is the second one going to have a conflict? Like, oh, I have to have the same first letter in my name because now we're going based off of my older sibling. And so there could be that whole Jan Brady situation. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know.
Right. Don't make him a Jan.
Right.
No, we had I think we pretty much knew who we wanted to name them after, because it had to be somebody who had passed away, and then it's just the first letter, so L and then A. And I obviously the second one we had to, I actually knew Bubby, Anna. So that was nice. But Jeremy never knew my great-grandmother because she died when I was very little. But then you actually have to do, when you do the baby naming for girls, you have to write a speech. I guess it all depends on the synagogue, but we're Reformed. So we wrote, and my husband is like, well, you're a writer. And you've been on stage,
it's different. My vows were awful because when you have to write something for you, it's harder than writing for someone else. You and I both blog for other clients, and it's harder to blog about your own thing because it's almost like you're too close to be able to actually let all the good stuff out or something. It's weird.
And I'm bad, so I did stand up, so I can write the funny stuff. But I don't do feelings. I don't I'm dead inside. I don't do feelings.
No,
and so I'm like, okay, I need to write feelings, which is hard for me. And it's hard for me to actually be up there and be like, I feel blah, blah, blah. That's hard. But then I peppered in my jokes. So, because so I gave the speech of here's why, and here's what we hope, and these are the attributes that we want them to have, and everything. And so that was nice. Lila was just, when I gave the speech, was just laying there in my arms. Audrey screamed the whole time.
Oh, no.
And then had a diaper blowout all over me in front of the synagogue.
That's so funny.
The rabbi helped clean it up. It was very indicative of their 2 personalities.
So with a 4-month-old, are you starting to see a personality?
I am, but the funny thing with, everything's new to me, so I don't know anything, but for me, it's I see a personality, but I'm seeing multiple, not that she has multiple personalities, but it's just the personality that I'm seeing. It has these different brush strokes of other people I know. I see my dad in her sometimes. Sometimes I see my mother's mother. Sometimes I see my father-in-law in her. Sometimes I see myself. Sometimes I see my mother. I start seeing everybody kind of with different ways that she moves her face and different things that she does, like when she's kind of bossy, I kind of think of myself a little bit because I can be bossy sometimes. And when I see her, like her smiling, you know, I think of my mom, and you just see a lot of the ancestry and the family, the DNA of everyone in her. And so like right now is like kind of the cooking time where everything's bubbling together. And,
I like that.
And kind of a melting pot. And so it's not like there's just one. It's like I'm seeing her develop, and she's taking all this stuff that she has in her, and I'm seeing everyone kind of pop up, and it makes me feel happy because, I mean, obviously she's my child and his child, but it's nice to remember like everybody because, you know, one day we're not all going to be together, and so the time that we spend together is really important. And she is the thing that will always kind of I don't know, be like the scrapbook. She'll always be like a reminder of everyone when she's gone. So I gush over her all the time.
Oh, that sounds so nice.
I hope I'm like this with the second. I hope the second one isn't like one of those commercials where it's like, all right, she's fine, she's clean enough, or, you know, like, I think I want to care as much about my next
It's
child.
different. Yeah. I mean, and also it's nice because you know what you're doing.
True.
So,
True.
Yeah. Oh gosh, 1 to 2.
I heard it's scary. I'm scared.
I mean,
when you went to 2, was it harder? Was the second one harder, easier, or just different?
well, so different. Audrey was a much harder baby than Lila, but I know what I'm doing. So there are things that like happened that I just don't freak out about. Like, I know that when you're changing a little baby's diaper, they can have some explosive poops the minute you take that diaper off. Lila, when I was changing her diaper, she painted the wall a few times. That didn't happen with Audrey because I'm like, okay, the diaper is in the way, blockading. Then you like you're pulling the tablecloth out. Just switch. So we actually didn't have those situations, but that was good because then I didn't have to figure that out. So I could then deal with having 2 children and nursing while one of them needs help in the bathroom, while the other one needs help in the bathroom. And so I got real good at nursing and doing other things at the same time. Yes. Baby on the boob, other hand helping take the other child's pants off so she can go potty. Yes. You really get very good at that sort of thing.
Yes.
Multitasking definitely with the second becomes a lot more
a sport.
It is. It does, and a lot. And you think through having the first one, and you go, I don't know that I could ever do this again. But the second time is very different because you're now doing it and playing the tuba. I mean, you're doing a second task. Yeah. And depending on the age structure of the two, it's very different because when they are, you know, just newly trained to potty or younger, or they're not quite as helpful.
Yeah.
We really spent the first 3 months that our second daughter was alive trying to keep our oldest daughter from poking her in the eye.
Or the soft spot. They always know where it is. I'm like, no. And then you realize how durable babies actually are. You're laying, and all of a sudden you just hear thud. You're like, oh God, what is that? Or, oh my God, my oldest one. So they're both in daycare. But while I was on maternity leave, Lila got strep. Oh. And I was like, oh dear God. And so it was like trying to take care of her and keep the baby away from her. And oh my God. Yeah, the first 3 months is just basically like referee. Oh God, what's happening? But it's so like, I know it sounds scary, and I have a friend who's gonna have 2, and she's like, oh, is it okay? And I send her pictures of like Lila was reading to Audrey, and I'm like, this is so cute. So I'm like, once you get past the whole, oh dear God, how will we survive? Then you're just like, aw, they're friends.
Yeah. Yeah, when you start to see that, when you go from please don't poke your sister's eye out to, then they hug.
Oh,
You're just like, okay.
they love each other.
Okay, we did something right.
Yeah, I'm glad they have a playmate. Well, and I feel like it's good for them. They're learning how to share. I mean, they do at daycare share.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, the toddler doesn't really, but they're learning how to share with their own toys too, which is a good lesson.
Well, we hope we have helped introduce everybody to the beginning of parenting as babies. Thank you very much, Andrea and Stephanie, for joining us on our baby parent panel on the Chicago Parent Magazine Masters in Parenting.